Hi all, and welcome to my first YouTube Q&A session. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, which will probably be most of you viewing, you'll know that weekly I try to do a Q&A, hopefully live, to basically try and give back to the followers and help as many of you as I possibly can. So let's get started. CityFit asks, what's your protein intake on training and non-training days, and do you measure with myfitnesspal? I do measure with myfitnesspal when I'm creating kind of a little bit of a plan of action for the next kind of period. So right now I'm trying to bulk up. I created a plan of action where like I aimed for 4,000 calories. I believe it was 650-ish grams of carbs, 180 grams of protein and 80 grams of fat, something along those lines. So I'll use myfitnesspal to kind of dictate the plan going forward. And then, to be honest, I'm a bit of an intuitive eater in the sense that I know how much, when I pour oats into a bowl, how much is roughly 100 grams. If I pour 1.5 cups of bran flakes, I'll know that's 100 grams. I'm quite intuitive in that sense, meaning I know my portions and I know what's roughly giving me 1,000 calories per meal. In terms of protein intake, I consume anywhere from 120 to 200 grams of protein per day. And the simple reason for that is just because my calories are so high. It's quite hard for me to keep my protein intake down whilst I'm eating so many grains and legumes and things. On a vegan diet, it's kind of a bit of an issue to keep my protein down, to be honest. We know that we don't need about 200 grams to build muscle or strength, and I certainly don't need 200 grams. So yeah, to answer your question simply, I do use myfitnesspal, but not on a daily basis. I use it as a tool to measure out a plan of action. I use it as a tool for when I'm creating new meals which I don't know the macros of, and it's a great tool for beginners to use to increase their understanding of food and macronutrients as well. H Jane 65 asks, vegetarian protein sources. You know, we have grains, we have legumes, we have dairy products. It doesn't seem that you're vegan. And then on top of that you have supplements, bars, etc. as well. It's completely a non-issue. One of the issues that arise for me from this question is that, in my mind, that I think we have a tendency to categorize foods by the macronutrient that they're highest in. For example, if we take lentils as an example, people would consider that to be a carb food, a carb source, just because it's highest in carbs. However, it's also a great source of protein with around about 26 grams of protein per 100 grams. So we should start looking at foods as a whole and the nutrients they give us as a whole, as opposed to singly looking at kind of what it's highest in. I think everybody's guilty of that a little bit. And I think the whole lean protein source stems from that idea really. So people are looking for lean vegetarian protein sources, of which there's also many. But why do that? If you're going to have a lean protein source with a separate carb source, why not just get a food which has both? And generally vegetarian sources of protein are usually more complete in terms of nutrients. They usually come with a lot of fat or a lot of carbs, which I think is not an issue at all. JJ UK asks, how do you gain more strength on compound lifts? The simple answer there is twofold really. You need correct programming, and you need more practice and more frequency on the compound lifts you're trying to increase your strength on. So I recommend trying something like strong lifts 5x5. That's a great routine to build up some strength. Generally I prefer 3x5, to be completely honest. So 3 sets of 5 routines. I'll probably do upper lower, take a rest day, and then upper lower again, focusing on a bench press day, a squat day, a military press day and a deadlift day. When you're done with your 3 sets of 5 for those main moves, the rest of the session revolves around kind of assistance move for that one single move. And to be completely honest, there's just no way you can't build strength on that in a linear fashion. So if I do 3 sets of 5 with 60 kilos on the military press, the next week I come in and do make a jump of 2.5 kilos or 5 pounds, and you keep working up in that fashion. And there's no way, if you're doing everything right in terms of at home, sleeping enough, eating enough, there's no way you can't build strength from that type of routine, to be honest. Haz Singh asks, could you do a tutorial on how to do cleans for beginners? The reason I haven't done any tutorials is because I feel like they've all been done before, whether you're looking at Scott Herman, Alan Thrall. There's even how-to pages which are filled with fitness content and exercises. I'm also not a master on the clean. It's something I'm practicing myself, and there's a lot of people that critique me. So what I will be doing in the future, however, is basically taking an exercise and teaching or helping you with the cues that I use with my clients or with myself to try and engage more or lift more, for example. But in terms of the cleans for beginners, I'd recommend looking at Alan Thrall's video. He's got a fantastic tutorial video on the clean and jerk and the snatch, and a lot of his content is really great for beginners because he uses a lot of annotation, he uses a lot of basic text, and he kind of takes it at a really slow pace. So I will link that below for you guys. Navdeep Singh says he's focusing on his legs gaining more weight. The problem is increasing belly fat, so what can I do to get rid of belly fat without reducing weight? The simple answer there, Paji, is you have to be very, very patient, because the only way to reduce your belly fat or body fat without reducing your weight would be to build muscle, and that's going to take a while. So if you're trying to, it seems like you're trying to bulk up, and what's happening is you're gaining too much body fat, which you're not very happy with. There's simple controls there. One would be eat slightly less. So it just means that your caloric surplus, the extra amount you're eating to gain weight, is probably too much if you're gaining fat too much. The second thing is to increase your activity, so you can get a correct training, which is actually going to be more intense than what you're probably doing now, or just increase your activity by, let's say, walking for half an hour every day. That would be useful as well. The next question is by Balraj, who says, how do you do patka? I will be making a video at some stage showing people how I do my patka and how I tie a Valepi pug as well as a Patiala Shahid pug, because it seems to be something that people always want to see, which is, you know, it's not a bad thing. And I'll do my best to get that up as soon as possible, Balraj. Her next thing, Man, says, how much protein do we really need? Good question. The protein that we really need is a lot less than what the supplement companies will have us believe, or the magazines will have us believe. If I'm not mistaken, I think the maximum benefit in studies has been 0.75 grams of protein per pound of per pound of body weight. So that's roughly 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight. After that point, so they took people on low protein intakes, medium protein intakes and high protein intakes, and they found basically 0.75 grams of protein per pound of body weight to have the maximum benefit. So if you imagine low protein intake was here, medium protein intake was here, high protein intake was still there. So the medium one, which was 0.75, was the last point at which they ceased to see any additional benefits from increasing protein past that point. Our next thing, Man, also asks, how much volume and frequency do we need as a natural lifter? That's a pretty tough question to answer, because it's not a one size fits all. It's not a generic answer for everybody. Generally, you need more volume than what you're currently doing, so that will help increase your work capacity and increase your strength and muscle mass. And in terms of frequency, as a natural lifter, the more the better, really. If you can work everything twice per week, 3 times per week, you are going to build more muscle. Simple fact. Amanpreet asks, what are some of the most effective glute exercises? Great question. This is something I've been looking into a lot recently. I've been looking into the work of Brett Contreras, who is known as the glute guy, which is fantastic. The top 2 exercises for the glutes. One is the hip thrust, and number 2 is something called the bird dog, both of which I'll post tutorial videos down below. Something else I wanted to recommend, and I brought up specifically for this Q&A, is this slingshot hip circle. So with the hip circle, what you can do is perform any single glute exercise. You can do side steps, you can do squats in that, you can walk forwards and backwards with this, you can do glute kickbacks, you can do some fantastic exercises with this, and it's just basically going to increase the effectiveness of any glute exercise you choose. I particularly love to use that when I'm doing hip thrusts. I also warm up every single squat and deadlift workout using the hip circle. So that's a great piece of advice for anybody looking to increase their glute strength or size. Gurjeet Saini says, hello Veer, I want to ask only one question. Please reply, जिद्दां मेरी body fit है, proper abs वगैरह, and body also 12 to 13 body fat है. पूछना चाहना कि मैं gaining phase कितना time तक and cutting phase कितना time तक चलाना होता है. Gurjeet, I don't think you need to be focused on bulking and cutting, to be honest. It seems like you're a beginner. Your body fat is very low. According to you, it's 12 to 13%. All you need to do is lift heavy weights for a period of 5 years yet. Aje koi time nahi hega for bulking or cutting or that mentality, which is a bit of a terrible mentality anyway. What you need to do is just lift heavy weights, eat more and more, and do that for 5 years. Be very patient. Make sure your strength is increasing as often as possible, hopefully on a weekly basis, and keep progressing in that fashion. This is not there's no shortcut from bulking, so it's not the case where the higher your caloric surplus, the more gains you make. It's just not like that. You are going to get beginner gains at the moment because it does seem that you're a beginner. Whatever the caloric surplus is, the extra surplus will just mean extra body fat gain, which is probably not what you want. Breed Singh 79 asks, how is jaggery better than sugar and is it effective in muscle building? So jaggery, for those of you who don't know, is good in Punjabi, and the simple answer is, how is it better than sugar? It really isn't, in a way. The only way it is better is that if you compare 100 grams of sugar versus 100 grams of gur, the jaggery will contain a few more vitamins and minerals, I believe. I'm not sure, it might just be all minerals, but that's the only difference. And the fact that you have to consume 100 grams of jaggery just to get, I believe it was 60% of some of your minerals for the RDA, it's just not worth it. So in terms of is it worth choosing jaggery over sugar? Probably, because sugar has no micronutrients as far as I'm aware. But is it effective in muscle building, and does it have all of these claims that Indians and kind of these yoga articles all over the internet will have us believe? Completely not. There's not a single study to back up that jaggery is beneficial for digestive health or helping circulation or reducing cholesterol or anything else like all these articles seem to be claiming. So it's important to remember that. Try not to fall for all of this kind of marketing. The issue with a lot of this health and fitness stuff is that there's always a product which comes into the limelight. So right now it's obviously a coconut oil craze, and jaggery just seems to be climbing up that kind of ladder as well, to be honest, to becoming this new alternative to sugar, which is amazing and loaded with nutrients. It's partly true, it does have more nutrients than sugar, however it's still pure sugar, and to get the nutrients from it you'd have to consume something like 100 grams per day, and even then you wouldn't be getting 100% of your recommended daily amount, which is it's pointless. So it's not effective in muscle building in any way. So the next question, Fit Core asks, is there anybody you look up to as a fitness or health icon? The answer is twofold really, yes and no. So there's people like Omar Isuf, Alan Thrall, Greg Knuckles, Bryce Lewis, Dmitry Klokov, Liu Ixaojun, who's a weightlifter, Chinese weightlifter. These people are all, I aspire to be like them, but everyone for a different reason really. So people like Bradley Martin, people like Omar Isuf, fantastic at content, so I'm inspired by them for content creation. People like Dan John, who's a great writer, I'm inspired to write when I kind of read his books or read his work. Other people, the way I work is I try, if somebody knows something I don't, I'm willing to kind of learn from them. So I'm always seeking inspiration and always seeking knowledge from a variety of people. So it's very tough for me to kind of just give you one name who I shadow or I try to emulate, because it's just not really the case. I try to seek inspiration and knowledge from as many different sources as possible, and That's the simplest way I can answer that, to be honest. Giri Shetty Anu asks, if you're on vacation to India for a month at least and are not working out, do you cut on carbs or fats during that time? The simple answer there is no, I do not. Generally, when I go to India, my weight is coming down and kind of my chances of getting ill and getting infections have increased. So for me, it's important to eat as much as I possibly can to try and keep onto as much mass as I can. I do tend to stop working out, because you mentioned working out, and the main reason for that is just because I am away. I try to use that as time to unwind, because I know once I'm back I'll be training pretty hard again. So to answer your question simply, yes, I do start working out. I might do a little bit of bodyweight work per day, but I don't cut on any carbs or fats. For me, it's just a case of trying to get in as much food as I possibly can to avoid any weight loss. Sampan11 asks, tips on gaining mass in terms of food. If you're just looking for muscle mass, then you have to be patient. It's going to take time, and unfortunately it's not going to happen in the time frame that you have in your mind. If you're underweight, which is what it seems, and you want to gain mass, the simple answer is 2 words: just eat more. And the way you can do that is by, if you're eating at the moment, let's say 4 meals, if you have a big glass of milk, a piece of fruit like a banana, and a handful of nuts with each meal, you'll automatically be increasing your meal calories by about 400 each meal, basically. So that's a large surplus at the end of the day. That's a great way to begin getting in more calories, really. Rashmeet says veg keto diet. I'm not sure what the question is there. I'm also not sure why you'd want to do a keto diet. If it's for fat loss, you don't need that approach. I know you definitely can do a vegetarian keto diet, and I know you definitely can do a vegan keto diet, but again, I'm not sure of the question there. Simar Bhaiya asks, when did you start to get into working out? I began around about 2006, 2007 at home. So I used body weight. I used to do squats, press-ups, running up and down stairs. I had a pair of 4 kilo very light dumbbells. We then invested in a home gym system, so I got some more dumbbells and barbells, and I had kind of the pec deck, I had the lat pull downs, I had all of that going on in my garage. And it wasn't until December 2008 when I actually joined the gym, which was 8 years ago now. Karan Gakar says, no questions Baji, just wanted you to know that I hit a new PR in bench, squat, deadlift and overhead since I ditched the orthodox method and took upper lower split as you suggested in the last Q&A, and that wasn't too long ago either. Would mean a great deal if I could get a mention in your next video. Hashtag Azad gains. You know, that's fantastic, Karan. That's what these Q&As are all about. So from my experience in personal training and being in the gym for so many years, I know that most people aren't doing what's optimal for their goals. So these Q&As are just a way to give back, really, for obviously people are following me, people are asking me questions. It's my kind of job in a way, isn't it, to answer everything and to help people with their queries. And the fact that you got PRs and moved over to something which I recommended to you in the last Q&A, that's fantastic. It's really great to hear, and keep that going up. Salma786 asks, what's your typical breakfast, lunch and dinner? I will be doing a video soon on what I eat in a day, although I don't think, to be completely honest, what everybody eats for their goals is going to differ greatly. What I eat in a day might give you a bit of an idea in terms of meals and how to maybe portion control on a plate, but if I told you each of my meals is probably about 1,000 calories, all of a sudden it's not going to help you with your goals, which is probably fat loss. Now says looking great bro, and Ninder says India John. So that concludes this week's Q&A. I will be posting links below for you guys who wanted tutorials, and I will be posting a eating video soon, how I tie my bug soon, for those of you who asked as well. And I will also be doing a frequently asked questions, because what happens with these Instagram weekly Q&As is there is very common questions that obviously have a reoccurrence. So, you know, whether that be regarding improving my strength, or whether that be which protein do I use as vegan, or Some people are asking me kind of what are those trainers that I wear in the gym, how do I improve my deadlift, etc, etc. I will be making a separate video, probably in a few parts, addressing all of the most frequently asked questions that I've experienced over the last year and a half, really, since I've actually started to come out into the fitness world, and since I opened my website. For those of you who are on my YouTube and not on my Instagram, it's probably best to catch me on Instagram, because that's the social media that I keep most active with. So I will post the link to that below, and if you like this video, you can expect more on a weekly basis. So please comment below with any questions you may have, and I'll catch you in that next one.